Welcome to Wine Tasting 101 at Ascension Wine Estate. Whether you pay $9 for your bottle of wine or $9,000, I think it's really important that everybody gets as much enjoyment out of their glass of wine as they can. And so what I'm going to do now is just show you three very simple things which will help you maximize every glass of wine that you enjoy in the future. I'm often asked, what's the best way to taste wine? And I have to say that in my years of experience, I've always found that orally is the best way to enjoy wine. But enjoying it orally, there's a few things that we can do to make that experience even more beneficial for you. So first thing we're going to do is, of the three steps, is to look at the wine. Now ideally it's good to have a white background. It just makes it a bit easier to see the wine. And then just tilt your glass on the angle to have a look at the wine. Now there's a couple of things that we're looking for. First of all, does it look clear? All the wine that we drink should be clear. If there's cloudy, there's probably something wrong with it. A little bit of sediment's okay, that's quite natural, especially in red wines. And sometimes in white wines you get little tartrate crystals, which are like little bits of glassy sand, and that's all fine as well. So let's look at the wine. First of all, is there anything wrong with it? No. And then there's two other things that looking at the colour of a wine can tell us. It can give us a bit of a clue about its age. Red wines tend to start their life as a nice deep purple and then fade to a brick red colour over time. And white wines are the opposite. They tend to start off life as quite pale, and they develop deep golden colours as they age. So that can give us a bit of a clue. So first of all, let's look at it. This is a beautifully clear wine, and it's got a lovely red colour about it. So it tells me that I'm looking at something that I'm probably going to enjoy. Next thing to do is to sniff the wine. And before we do that, we've got to give the wine a swirl. Now we don't give the wine a swirl in the glass just to look like a wine tosser, as I describe them. We do that because when you swirl the wine in the glass, it increases the surface area of that wine and it releases all those delicious aromas that you've paid for. So once again, we give it a swirl and then we have a sniff. And when we sniff it, we don't sniff it from here, even though often you'll smell the wine. I can smell this wine from here. You swirl it and you put your nose right to the edge of the glass and take a big deep inhale. And that once again tells you a little bit about the wine. Traditionally, going back to when we were cavemen, we used to sniff things to make sure that they were safe to eat or drink, and we still do that today. You go into the fridge, there might be something that's been there a bit longer than you might like, and to double check it, we sniff it. So sniff is not just an enjoyment thing, it's a checking thing too, because sometimes wine, if it's gone off, can have some unpleasant aromas, and that'll tell you that there's something wrong with that wine. So this tells me so far that the wine looks great, it smells fantastic, and then the final part of the trio is tasting the wine, which, as I mentioned earlier, orally is definitely the best way here. So what I'm going to do is you take a sip of wine into your mouth, and then you suck a bit of air through your mouth, almost like you're slurping. Now, I'm not saying that you do this all the time, but generally when you're looking at wine for the first time, or you're in an environment where the wine's maybe a little bit special, you really want to taste, once again, all those aromas and flavours that you've paid for. And by slurping the wine through your mouth, it gets air going past the olfactory bulb, which is a very important part of your nose and your taste mechanism, and that helps the vapors go up through your nasal passages so you can taste that wine. And you'll know that when you've got a cold, you can't taste anything, or your sense of taste is reduced. So let's try a slurp. Delicious. And you might have noticed that I also chew the wine in my mouth. By doing that, by kind of chewing it in your mouth, you're coating all the different parts of your tongue and your mouth with that wine, and you've got all sorts of nerves and sensory things in your tongue that detects taste and texture. So if you put all three together, start by looking at the wine. Is it nice and clear? What sort of colour is it? Is it nice and healthy? Then we swirl it to release the aromas, and then we give it a big deep sniff. And then finally, we take a slurp, we chew it, and we suck some air through our mouth, and that gives us the final taste of that wine. those are just three really simple ways that you can maximise your enjoyment of wine in every glass.